Hi, I'm Paul Guppy. I'm Vice President for the Washington Policy Center, and this is our regular update of what the Policy Center is working on, and also what is coming up in the world of public policy. We're moving into the summer and into the fall election season. We're going to have some issues on the ballot. We also just wrapped up the legislative session. And of course, I should point out that I'm speaking to you from our new beautifully designed video studio that we have created in our office in downtown Seattle. And while I received many compliments on the COVID era tape a video at home in your study setup that we had before, we have decided to professionalize and upgrade. Hopefully it looks better to you. But in addition to the videos that I make myself, this facility will allow all of our policy experts and to do podcasts through our young professional program and for us to talk about a number of different issues, get more of that information online so that we can advance our mission and provide good information to the people of Washington State. So for today's update, what I'll be covering is quick wrap up on the legislative session. This week is last week rather, is the deadline for the governor to sign bills. So we know what's happening with those. Then I'll look at a couple of big bills that did pass, and then look ahead to the initiatives that are coming up later in the summer. So regarding the session itself, I've covered this somewhat in the past. The legislative session ended on March 7th. We are putting together, as we do every year, a list of the policy wins that we had. I have a draft of that sitting on my desk right now. I can already see that there are at least 36 bills that reflect Washington Policy Center's recommendations in their outcome in the legislature. So those are victories for the work that we do. To hit on some of those specifically, the highlights are we succeeded in protecting property tax limits. We succeeded in helping to defend a horrendous rent control bill that would have been proposed across the country. There was a proposal to add a wealth tax that was defeated. We fought against a higher tax on real estate transactions, which really affects homeowners and businesses. We helped pass a ban on state and local income taxes, an issue that we've worked on for a long time. We preserved a family leave payroll tax exemption for small employers. Our push there was that was breaking a commitment that had been made. The Democrats pulled back on that when we made that point. We were able to cut regulations on providing more mental health hospital beds, and also to allow easier licensing of physician assistants who come from out of state. Every step towards reducing professional licensing barriers, particularly for people who have credentials from other states, is a benefit to our state, and we'll continue to push on that. And then lastly, there was a bill introduced earlier in the session by Representative Christine Reeves that, while it didn't mention his name, was clearly organized to keep Donald Trump's name off of the ballot in Washington State. Regardless of a person's position about Trump, we just felt that it was not democratic to just arbitrarily choose a candidate, in this case, a Democrat, targeting a candidate from the opposite party and then banning that person from the ballot in Washington State. We were able to help defeat that bill purely on fairness and democracy grounds, and that was before the Supreme Court ruled that states like Colorado, Maine, that were trying to take Trump off the ballot, that was overturned. So we're happy with that result. Also, we heard sort of informally, I often don't mention this because we don't have documented evidence, but we hear regularly from lawmakers, both Democrats and Republicans, about how they use our materials. First of all, they listen to the statements and the testimonies that we submit on particular bills. We testified on over 36 bills this time. And we often hear comments like, this was from Senator Wellman, who said to a colleague, "Oh, I can't sign on to that bill because Washington Policy Center will be all over me about that." So we know that our comments and analysis are distributed among lawmakers and staff. We know that they track what we do, and we're happy about that because we want to get good information out there. The other thing regarding the record is, in the past, years ago, we were sometimes attacked because our information is inaccurate. You don't have the right sources. You don't know what you're talking about. That criticism has entirely disappeared from our opponents. They attack us personally. They call us names. But we have not had a challenge on the accuracy, sourcing, or footnotes of our research in a number of years. And of course, if we did have a challenge, we would respond to it. But as the session wraps We notice that our reputation for accuracy is very strong, and also our appeal to both sides of the aisle is strong. We make our information available in a bipartisan way, and we know that members of both parties do look at it. So that's the wrap up for the session. Another positive note is we're seeing something of a rollback in the size and reach of government, even here in Seattle, where we're based. Seattle City Council is now considering repealing the fee that it put on Uber Eats and other delivery services that greatly increased the cost of those door-to-door services. Council President Sarah Nelson says that they plan to change it, and that will free up flexible gig work and opportunities for entrepreneurs. But the reason that's important, and we wrote strongly against that, we argued that adding extra taxes just simply makes the service too expensive, and then people stop using it. And then drivers lose their opportunities as well to gain income. The reason that's important is because we know that Seattle is a testing ground that the Democrats use to try to push ideas out to other places. So the fact that they're going to pull back on this fee indicates that that will not become a standard for communities across the state. Another bill that we've been working on is the late night, midnight passage of HB 1589. We are just calling this a straight out natural gas ban. That tells the bill tells Puget Sound Energy to stop servicing natural gas infrastructure, do not include natural gas services in new construction, and then over the next couple of years, move towards phasing out natural gas services for their customers in the Puget Sound region. The sponsors of this bill deny that it's a ban. They also deny that it's banning natural gas appliances, stoves, water heaters, things like that. But when we look at the bill, they can only say that because it's stretched out over so many years. Puget Sound Energy would begin submitting a plan to phase out natural gas customers in the year 2027, 2 years from now. So yes, it's in the future, but the intent of the legislation is to take natural gas services for consumers down to zero in the next several years. So we're going to continue to track that. The other aspect of that issue that's interesting is, again, it was passed in the Senate by one vote by about 2 o'clock in the morning. This week, the Governor Inslee just signed it. One indication of the politics behind it is that he signed it at the Electrical Workers Union Hall in Olympia. Phasing out natural gas, requiring electrical power, and who benefits from that? The Electrical Workers Union, and they are major supporters of the Democrats and Jay Inslee. I think he's pretty much upfront about that. Of course, what the governor hopes is that people will kind of forget about this after a certain amount of controversy. The years will go by, and then this ban will go into place. We don't see it that way at all. We don't forget, and we will be tracking this very closely, and it's likely that the legislature will revisit this ban in the next session, and we're hoping will allow people to continue to access affordable natural gas for their homes. We'll see how that plays out. Next issue are the three initiatives. As I've reported before, the legislature passed 3 of the popular initiatives that were sent to them: parental rights in schools, police pursuit authority, and then, as I mentioned earlier, the ban on income taxes. Those sailed through the legislature by large bipartisan votes. We were happy to see that. The 3 remaining initiatives they did not take up, and those will be on the ballot in November. And those 3 all have to do with bringing in money for the government. So we see this as being driven by greed of those who are in the government. Any initiative that doesn't involve the budget, yeah, go ahead and pass it. Fine. Any initiative that is a new revenue source, bringing in billions of dollars for the state, they didn't even hold a public hearing on them, and those will go before voters in November. We're also getting word about the political campaign that will be ginned up to try to defeat those measures. We hear that unions and left-wing activists plan to spend between $20 and $25 million on a campaign to urge people to vote no on tax relief. They are also, we understand, not going to go after each individual initiative on its merits. So there's the repeal of the capital gains tax, making the long-term care tax, payroll tax optional. And then, of course, my favorite, repealing the carbon tax. Those will bring massive relief for the public and yet we're hearing that there's a campaign to go after all three of them, purely on the basis that they're being promoted by billionaires. And these are, right-wing conspiracy people are pushing these initiatives. As we analyze the messaging in the campaign, we see that the opponents do not want to debate the issues themselves. They're not going to inform people or discuss about what these initiatives would actually do. They're going to lump all three together and then attack them, in an ad hominem way, just going after their reputation. On the other side, we are hearing that promoters of the initiatives, building on their successful signature campaign, that they did some looking at the signatures and saw that 50% of the initiative signers were either identified Democrats or independents. Just 43% of those who signed said that they were Republicans. The initiatives altogether, they collected 2.6 million signatures total, which was more than 800,000 unique signers. So the supporters of the three tax relief initiatives have a strong base across the state in support of what they're doing in November. And what's most interesting is, as I said, a large majority of those who signed the initiatives were Democrats and independents. So that makes it a bipartisan proposal. Our role in these ballot initiatives as we go into the summer is what it's been in the past, which is a neutral source of fact-based information about the initiatives. I mentioned that the opponents are not going to provide information about the issue. We will do that, again, in a neutral, factual way. We support tax relief. We think that's good policy for our state. But we also think that voters should be informed about what they're voting on. So we will do an individual citizens guide study on each initiative. It will walk through each proposal. It will be done in plain English, easy to understand terms, and we will distribute that widely throughout the state. The other service that we will be providing, in fact, we've already started, is a fact check series on claims that are made about the initiatives. We have issued 2 fact checks as part of the series. One was examining a claim that the capital gains income tax would, quote, devastate K-12 education funding. That's not true. We showed that the state has plenty of money anyway. And the other claim that was made was that making the long-term care payroll tax optional would repeal or destroy the program entirely. And that's also not true. Elizabeth on our staff responded, pointing out that it only makes participation in the program a choice. The program itself would still exist. So we will continue to be the strongest independent voice on ballot initiatives, providing information to the public, and we plan on doing that over the next several months. Lastly, I would have an exciting announcement to make, which viewers of this video are going to receive in advance. And that is, we have chosen a new director for our Eastern Washington program. That is Chris Corey, who is currently our budget expert. He is based in Yakima, and he's very excited to get started as our representative in Eastern Washington, working with Valerie in our Spokane office, also doing a series of meetings and speaking engagements throughout the eastern part of the state. And Chris is a solid expert on the issues. He knows the area very well. He's a member of the legislature, so he'll be doing that work when the legislature is in session. That will be separate from what we do. But when the legislature is out of session, he will be our representative in Eastern Washington, talking about issues that are important to people there. And another theme that we'll pick up is it's not just a focus on agriculture, as important as that is for our state, but also Eastern Washington is an important area for tech industry, aerospace, finance, transportation. All those issues are important to the people in the eastern part of our state. We feel that they need a stronger voice, and that's exactly what Chris will be providing. So with that, I'll wrap up by pointing out that you may hear me on KUOW in the coming weeks. I'm a panelist on the Week in Review show that they do. Again, that's public radio based in Seattle. We enjoy the opportunity to reach a more diverse audience, to have a broad discussion with people who disagree with us. We really think that helps the public debate. And in addition, we'll be doing our live WPC on the go. That's next Tuesday, again, live online. And then we have an event, the State of the Free Market, that we are doing on May 2nd. And that's with a panel of Todd, Mark, and Leave from our staff. will be in the Spokane Valley Regional Center, it's called, on May 2nd. And again, that's one of the regular policy programs we put on across the state. So that's the update. I hope you are impressed with our new space, and I'll be back in the future with another update. Thank you.